You know that phrase about life can change in an instant? I knew that phrase, but I didn't know the full weight of it until one ordinary afternoon 2 years ago when my world stopped for a period of time. It wasn't long after I had just logged off of my Sunday service at my spiritual community when I received the call. My husband was a skilled and avid motorcycle rider, and he was out for his Sunday afternoon ride, which I called his soul nourishment. That's where he got his soul nourishment on the mountains riding his motorcycle. And he was out riding his favorite mountain that day when the unexpected, unthinkable happened. And my husband of 25 years, my best friend, the father of our 4 children, was gone in a moment. And just like that, the life I had known for 25 years was over. Not rearranged, not just challenged in the moment, it was over. And grief did not ask for my permission. Grief didn't give me any warnings whatsoever. Grief just kind of barged in, no invitation. And at first, when I received that call, there was just complete shock. Trauma has a silence to it, a numbness, a rupture where the mind just sort of goes blank. The cognitive function just goes offline because the heart is so shattered and the body is just trying to keep up with the dysregulation. But underneath that shock, something in me would not let go of God. I remember thinking, if everything I've ever believed in is true, then God is here in this moment, not after this, not despite this, in this. And my prayer wasn't, God, why this? It was, God, show me, use me, stay with me, especially now. I think it's when you've walked with God long enough, you stop asking for explanations and you just begin asking for embodiment in whatever's showing up. So 2 weeks before this darkest time of my life, I stood right here in your community and I delivered a message, and it was titled, How Strong is Your Structure? Timely. It was September 3rd. My husband's accident happened September 17th. So very timely message. It was a blueprint of sorts. It was about how does your spiritual foundation hold up in the storms of life during those times when there's tornadoes and such. So 2 weeks later, life didn't test me. It revealed me, and it revealed my structure. It revealed my faith. This was the moment where all the spiritual principle and integrity I had lived by became the only ground that I actually could stand on. This was kind of the rubber meets the road. Not because I had to prove my faith, but because I really actually had no choice but to lean entirely into it. So I did, and I grieved, not gracefully, not quietly, not with silver linings. It was raw. It was ugly pain. I sobbed on the floor. I crumbled openly. My brain tried to make sense. The brain will try to make sense. My spirit knew there was never going to be a logical sense to be made of this. And I just let it hit me. It was like a wave that hit me again and again. And I didn't rush it. I didn't spiritualize it. And I didn't bypass it. I made a conscious choice to walk through the pain and the healing, not around it. I wanted to metabolize the grief completely, fully. So for nearly 4 months, I lived in that deep, agonizing cocoon, feeling every shred of loss. And then slowly, the waves began to spread apart. And the ocean didn't disappear. It held me, but it let me breathe between the tide. And here's a truth that I don't think we say enough in spiritual spaces. If we don't allow the pain to move, it becomes a thing that drives us and controls us. The body remembers what our mind wants to push and rush past. Neuroscience calls it somatic memory. Epigenetics calls it inherited stress response. Scripture calls it iniquity visiting the generations. All different language, same truth. Unprocessed grief won't disappear. You will hold it. It will become a legacy. So I made a covenant of sorts with God and myself. I will not numb the pain. I will not fake my way through this grief. And that's how my healing began. Not toxic positivity, not spiritual bypass, rather honesty, transparency with myself and the world around me. Grief whispered a deeper truth. And often when we have moments of pain in life, it makes way for floodgates to open with anything else that you have repressed. So the whisper said, this isn't the first loss that you've carried. This is the weight of every place you swallowed your voice, every time you abandoned yourself to keep peace, every goodbye you never grieved, every loss you moved through like a champ, every grief you survived quietly. So grief is cumulative. Body does keep the score. If you haven't read that book, it's a great one. Generational trauma is a real thing, and grief can travel in families, but so can healing. So God wasn't inviting me into something like just recovering from the loss. It was something much bigger. I was being ushered. That's the word I felt like, ushered into transformation. I was initiated to where the human meets the holy. And that's what I'd like to talk about. Not the polished self, not the strong self, not the I've got this self, the spiritual self, the real self, the one who cries, questions, trembles, wonders, because I feel that's the sacred intersection where our truest humanity collides with God's unwavering divinity. And it doesn't happen once we heal, it happens while we're healing. Not when we rise, but when we fall. Not when we finally understand and get it, but when we surrender to the unknown. I don't know. That's where the power is born. There's a psychologist named Rollo May, and he was exploring human soul long before it became sort of fashionable in the 50s and 60s. And that was when a time when a culture kind of leaned toward optimism and order. And he was asking bolder questions, questions that I feel like brushed the edges of mysticism. He believed that joy is not found beyond despair, but born from the courage to walk all the way into despair. His thoughts deeply resonate with me, probably because I lived it and walked it. He said despair has a constructive side, that avoiding it keeps us shallow, but facing it, looking straight at it, makes us free. And when I was reading that, I thought of Beethoven, and in music, it just arose in my thoughts that in Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, Ode to Joy, it doesn't begin in triumph. It rises out of this conflict and struggle and dissonance and darkness. Not joyful instead of suffering, but joyful because it survived the descent into suffering. And I feel this is the paradox of our spiritual journey. We don't become whole by avoiding our darkness. We become whole by walking through it with God and bringing the light. Sometimes the outside world calls it breakdown, spirit calls it breakthrough. Not because it feels good and not because it looks graceful, but because it's true. And by true, I mean it was real. It happened. It was an unchangeable fact of my life, your life, if you go through something like that. Truth isn't always inspirational. Truth is simply what is happening now. The circumstance we didn't choose, the pain we did not script, the moment that we can't edit out. And so here's the sacred turn in this. The truth That truth is actually the womb of transformation, because nothing real can be healed until it's first faced, named, looked at, accepted. And science actually says the same thing. The Body Keeps the Score, the book that I mentioned, talks about emotions must move through to heal. Neural pathways rewire through awareness. What we feel consciously, we release neurologically. And this is pretty cool. Quantum physics says a photon exists as a possibility until it's observed. And then reality changes when it's witnessed. So I'll say it plainly, and it is your healing begins when you stop looking away from it. And when you stop resisting what is, your biology shifts from this is a threat to this is my truth, this is the truth, and I get to move through it. Stress hormones drop then, the heart opens up, the nervous system exhales. Unity calls it renewing the mind, science calls it neuroplasticity, spirit calls it transformation. Different language, same God message. So Pain asked a question, and it wasn't, will you survive this? There's somewhere deep I knew I would survive. The question was, will you soften into the truth of this, or you harden against the truth of this? And those are really the only two roads when we're faced with something like that, resistance or release. And I thought of it like the ocean. Imagine standing in the ocean and a wave comes. And if you tense up against it, it's going to knock you down, probably get hurt because your body's so tense. But if you soften with it, you can rise and fall with the wave. And you think of pain that comes through like a wave. And then surrender is the float into the wave. And surrender is not a collapse, it's a decision to say, God, this is true. This is what's happening. Meet me here. Not make it make sense or fix it. And God always meets us in the truth. And I wish that I could say healing was linear and it's step 1, step 2, step 3. And I wish grief was wrapped up in one nice, clean lesson plan. It's not. And what I found was not a ladder of steps to climb out of grief, but rather it was a current that held me while I floated through. And the truth is that God does not wait for us to transcend our humanity. God transfigures us through it. Not above the grief, not instead of the grief, inside of it, while we're in it. And this is where the human meets the holy. And this is why truth matters. This is why authenticity matters. This is why showing up in your realness in your life matters and is not weakness. It's a doorway to miracles that we could never script. I was sitting on the plane flying from South Carolina to California to plan my husband's funeral. Folded over in grief, sobbing, unable to hide it, not even trying to. And a woman across the aisle reached over and touched my shoulder. And she said, I don't know what you're going through, but I'm praying for you. Somehow I looked up through all of my tears and agony, practically inaudible, probably, and told her that my husband had just been killed in an accident yesterday. And she lovingly replied, my husband died when I was in my 40s, and I promise you, you will be okay. And right there, 30,000 feet above the earth, a woman who I'd never met before shared the exact same story as me 10 years prior, and she prayed over me. And even though I knew in my soul, yeah, I'd be okay, I had that, my structure's strong. The fact that she saw the light in me and could speak that over me and cover me in that prayer when I couldn't in that moment, when I didn't see all of that in that moment, I didn't feel that in that moment. That meant the world to me, and that carried me. That was one person of many, many, many that came in to carry me. So my vulnerability gave her a place to bring her truth. My honesty invited her holiness. My breaking gave her a chance to be a miracle to me. And I knew about all of this conceptually, but perhaps not viscerally until that moment. And when we tell our truth about our lives, we become a landing place for grace, not just for ourselves, but for other people. When we let ourselves be human, it gives someone else permission to be human too and show up. And that is when the sacred begins to move, not just in us, but through us. And the human in me met the holy in her, and the holy in her met the human in me. And together we stood in that moment, felt held by God. And that's really what surrender looks like. It doesn't mean letting go of hope, it means letting go of armor, armoring up to handle things. So I let the current carry me, and I discovered something really breathtaking. I was held more steadily by the divine, by others, than I could have ever held myself during that time. And so today I ask, where have you been resisting the wave, tensing up, maybe trying to hide the darkness? Grief comes in so many shapes and forms. We face grief in so many ways, whether it's death, divorce, loss, loss you haven't named, grief you have not grieved, just kind of shoved it down, truth you haven't spoken, use your voice, or surrender, maybe you've postponed. There's so many different ways this can show up in your life. And a lot of times we want to resist it because those experiences can feel painful. But you don't heal by rising above this part of your humanity. You heal by bringing this humanity to God, to Spirit, to the divine. Not this filtered version, not the spiritual resume version, but the real version of you, what's really there, what's really beneath the surface. And this is where there's a moment where the soul makes a different choice, where we stop sort of surface editing our stories to look healed and instead allow God to do this deep edit within us. This kind of, it doesn't just revise behavior, it rewrites your belief about something, your lens that you're seeing through, your perception shifts. Like Course in Miracles says, a miracle is a shift in perception. Your identity, there's so much here that gets reframed. It's sacred work. It's beneath uh, all the other work, the deeper conversation, the inner renovation, the place where honesty replaces armor, and where truth replaces the tension we might hold, and where surrender replaces just being in survival. And that is where this human part of us meets the holy. And this is where transformation stops being theoretical and finally becomes incarnate. When we talk about incarnate and embodied, this is what we're talking about. And so I give the invitation to let today be the day we stop racing against that wave and let God carry you through it. Because the greatest joy isn't in the absence of sorrow, but in the presence of God inside it, within it, through it. So may you all feel what is true, release what is heavy, and receive what is holy. And may you discover that the very place that you thought might have been a broken spot is the place that God is making you completely and totally whole. And I love how that comes right back to the daily word reading today. So thank you for being here with me and feeling into the sacred space. I'm grateful to share, and thank you for receiving with your hearts.
Wow, Amy, thank you so much for sharing. Um, just my heart is just cracked wide open And as you were talking, I have a habit of just writing down things and trying to make them rhyme. So this is for you, Amy, you little angel. My goodness. Just like that, in an instant, everything can change. Grief can barge in, and the whole world can be rearranged. There's no way around the pain that will surely come. The body will keep score, even if you try to run or numb the cry, question, tremble, crumble into divinity. Fall, surrender, and let it go. Power is born in me, and the truth will set me free. The truth will set me free. Witness for yourself the truth of who you are. Moving right through this healing moment, even when it might seem hard, you will have two choices: resistance or release. Harden to the incoming wave or soften into peace. Oh, cry, question, tremble, crumble into divinity. Fall, surrender, let it go. The power is born in me. The truth will set me free. The truth will set me free. Yeah. Oh, land in grace, I land in grace, I land in grace, I land in grace. And just like that, in an instant, everything can change. And I invite the divine in this moment as I let my soul be rearranged. There is no way around the pain. Oh, it will surely come, and I will not numb or run. The truth will set me free. The truth will set me free. Land in grace, I land in grace, I land in grace, I land in grace.